Hey, welcome to our Stormwater Solutions Workshop. My name is Grady Graham, and I am an AmeriCorps member with Mason Conservation District. Here is a brief overview of our agenda today. We're going to go over what MCD is, what is sustainable landscaping, how to implement native plants into your landscape and how they benefit you, managing stormwater through rain gardens. So what is MCD? Mason Conservation District is a resource for landowners and residents looking to effectively manage their land or contribute to conservation efforts. MCD's mission is to promote the sustainable use, conservation, and restoration of natural resources for the use of future generations. MCD offers site visits to landowners and residents, which are free, personalized, and non-regulatory. We offer a home stormwater management program, which includes free technical assistance, engineering and planning through our in-office engineer, and free landscape designs that are available on our website. Shore-Friendly Mason is a program to prevent erosion, promote salmon habitat, and offer alternatives to bulkheads. You can find out more about this program through Jacob Murray, and you can find his contact information on our website. We partner with school districts all across Mason County to provide outdoor learning opportunities to all grade levels. We also provide workshops occasionally for our community members. Our forest stewardship program is of extreme interest to landowners with large forest stands on their properties. We offer forest planning, wildlife management, and wildfire risk assessment for free. Please visit our website to learn more. For farmers, we offer a farm assistance program. We offer free farm plans, access to programs such as CREP, and our better management practices, which include cost share programs. We'll be going over a few BMPs in the next slide. An example of a BMP is a heavy use area protection. It's a project that can help confine animals when grazing conditions are not met and reduce mud and manure buildup, which will also help reduce sediment and nutrient runoff. Another example of BMP is windbreaks and hedgerows, which will be of interest to farmers wanting to reduce erosion on their property. Our last example of BMP is gutters and downspouts, which can be offered to farmers to help convey stormwaters away from livestock facilities. What is sustainable landscaping? Sustainable landscaping is the practice of using multiple strategies to create an environmentally friendly and climate-appropriate landscape. This can sequester carbon, clean the air and water, increase energy efficiency, restore habitats, and create value through significant economic, social, and environmental benefits. There are two parts to a sustainable landscape. How well does your landscape match the local ecology? And how much does it cost to maintain your landscape? Your sustainable landscape should benefit you and the environment. When we think about implementing a sustainable landscape, we're not asking for an all or nothing approach. The combination of small changes in many gardens can make a significant impact for our native pollinators and species. Make sure you have clear goals when you are making landscaping decisions, whether it's landscaping goals for your own benefit or restoration goals for the benefit of the environment. It could be to reveal views or increase diversity, promote salmon habitat, or display color combinations in the fall. Installing native plants is an important part of a sustainable landscape. Native plants are better suited for our local ecology. They better support wildlife. They require less chemical inputs, which will lead to less pollution into our local streams and rivers. They're more effective at managing stormwater, but make sure to remove invasive species in your yards so our native plants don't get out-competed. And also try to use locally sourced materials when you can. What is stormwater? Stormwater is rainwater or melted snow that runs off streets, lawns, and other sites. When stormwater is absorbed into soil, it is filtered and ultimately replenishes aquifers or flows into streams and rivers. But when not properly absorbed into the soil, it can pick up a lot of pollutants and bring those pollutants into our streams and greatly affect our stream life. When planning on how to deal with stormwater effectively, it is important to understand our local area. Mason County on average receives 64 inches of rain annually. It is also important to understand our soil. There are a few ways to test soil, drainage, and type. We will cover soil drainage later in the presentation. For soil type, you can do the ribbon test where you take a handful of soil and you squeeze it. If it forms a ribbon, it is mostly clay, and if it falls apart, it is more sandy. Mason County in a snapshot. We have 968 square miles of land, and in that we have 7 major watersheds, including the Lower Hood Canal, Oakland Bay, and the Skokomish watershed. It is important to understand what watershed you live in, to know where stormwater can carry chemicals from your property. If you live in Oakland Bay watershed, ultimately chemicals or pollutants from your property will be carried off to Oakland Bay. So let's look at how that happens in the next few slides. To understand how stormwater can carry off chemicals and nutrients from your property into our streams and bays, it's important to compare undisturbed landscapes to landscapes we have altered. In an undisturbed landscape, the soil is not compact, and 35% of rainfall is absorbed into the soil. 50% of it is released back into the atmosphere through evaporation and transpiration. Only 15% of the rainfall will run off into our streams. In comparison, on landscapes with built structures and disturbed or compacted soils, we have very limited amounts of rainwater that is able to be detained and or infiltrated into the soil, leading to a much greater amount of water that contributes to runoff. This can be anywhere from 55 to 70% depending on your property. This means water will be flowing faster across your property, increasing the rate of erosion and carrying away more chemicals and nutrients from your fields and yards. This leads to even less water being released back into the atmosphere. This is where sustainable landscaping can help. Let's talk about our options for reining in the rain. One option is to eliminate or reduce traditional lawn on your property. This is because a traditional lawn does not do a great job of absorbing rainwater. Native ground coverage will do a much better job at this. You can collect rainwater, create a rain garden, use compost and mulch, or use permeable surfaces, which are surfaces that absorb water. To reduce flooding on your property, we need to limit the amount of impervious surfaces used in your landscape. An impervious surface is a hard area that doesn't allow water to seep into the ground. Instead, the water runs off the impervious surface, picking up many types of pollution in the process, and then flows into a storm drain or nearby body of water. An example of an impervious surface in your landscape could be your driveway or a concrete path, or maybe some compacted soil. So to limit that, we're going to look at some options for alternatives. Replacing concrete with gravel is one way we can reduce the amount of impervious surfaces on your property. With stepping stones and plants to allow drainage, make paths narrow to reduce impervious areas. Replacing or reducing your traditional lawn can help reduce flooding on your property. A residential lawn might be 40% impervious, while natural land covers are nearly 0% impervious, meaning natural land covers will absorb more water than traditional lawns. Here are some examples for alternatives to your lawn that can be more beneficial to your landscaping goals. We also have free planting plans on our website. Next, we're going to talk about why using native plants is more beneficial to your landscaping goals than using non-native plants. First, here's the definition of what a native plant is. Native plants tend to be better suited to our soils, requiring less chemical inputs than non-native, saving you time and money. Native plants are also cheaper and have a higher survivability rate. They can protect your property through their deeper root systems, which can minimize stormwater and erosion problems and save you time. They also provide food and habitat for wildlife and pollinators. They're up to 4 times more attractive to our native pollinators than non-native plants. Native ground covers will do a far better job protecting your property than a traditional grass lawn, as they have deeper root systems holding soil in place and retaining water. This will help increase erosion prevention on your property. So let's talk about rain gardens. What is a rain garden? It is an area that is landscaped to collect, absorb, and filter stormwater runoff from impervious areas such as rooftops and driveways. This picture is from 2020. Our crew helped install rain gardens in the yards of local homeowners in Shelton. We don't currently have any funding to build additional rain gardens, but are always looking for it. We are going to look at the best timeline for implementing a rain garden into your landscape. The best time to test soil drainage is during the wet season to see how the soil drains when it is saturated. This will help avoid overflow events by making sure your rain garden is the correct size to deal with the amount of water you receive. The best time to build is in the dry season, and the best time to plant is in the fall, so plants have time to establish their roots before winter. The first step of your planning process should always be to check with 811 where your local utilities are. Then determine how much contributing area will drain to your rain garden. Observe how drainage flows and find a suitable location to capture runoff. Test soil drainage rates, identify a safe place to direct overflow, and determine the size and shape of your rain garden. It is ideal if your rain garden is lower in elevation than the area that will contribute to your rain garden, so water flows with gravity. If on an incline, it's best if the slope is between 2 to 6%. Otherwise, the water the garden filters could contribute to increased erosion on your property. Choosing an area with well-draining, sandy soil is ideal. An important factor in determining the size of your rain garden is to calculate the size of your contributing area. In this example, the contributing area is 1,150 square feet. It is also important to note what zone you live in. Mason County is made up of rainfall zones 4 to 6, meaning on average we receive 60 to 80 inches of rain annually, depending on where you live. Keep that in mind. The next step in determining your ideal garden size is to determine the soil drainage rate. Dig a 2-foot deep hole that's 1 to 2 feet in diameter, place a measuring stick in it, add water, and time how long it takes the water to drain. This can take a while. A good location will have greater than 1 inch of drainage per hour. Once we have all this information, we can determine the size of an ideal rain garden for our property. You can find the exact equation in the Washington State Rain Garden Manual, which will be linked at the end of the presentation. Determine where the inflow and outflow will be. Water can be delivered across a landscaped area through open swale with decorative plants and rock, or through a pipe. Those are most of your options for inflow. For outflow, the major rule is do not direct overflow towards structures, as this can result in the flooding of those structures. This is an example of what a swale can look like. They can be highly decorative on your landscape, and their main intent is to convey stormwater to where you want it to go. An important feature is the ability to slow down the flow of water across your property. This can reduce erosion and prevent excess nutrient runoff. Let's briefly touch on the steps to build your rain garden. First, you want to lay out your rain garden using stakes, rope, ground paint, or other tools. Then you want to excavate the soil. Use the soil for other projects or the berm later on. Create an entry for water. Level the excavated bottom, but do not compact. That's important. Provide a rock-lined overflow. Place an improved rain garden soil mix. That's 30 to 40% compost, 60 to 65% sand into existing soil. This should be around 18 inches deep. Level the surface, but do not compact. When planting a rain garden, use a variety of native small trees, shrubs, ground covers, and grasses. We'll need to select plants that are suitable for the 3 planting zones of a rain garden. So the zones of a rain garden, zone 1 is going to be the wettest area, zone 2 is going to be the slopes that occasionally will be flooded, and zone 3 is for plants that prefer drier conditions. Zone 1, the bottom of your rain garden, the wettest area. Plants should be able to tolerate standing water for up to 3 days. Rain gardens are designed to filter water in a 2 to 3 day period. Plants that will do well here are grasses, legumes, and small shrubs. Consider a mix of deciduous, evergreen, and perennial. Some examples of plants that do well here are ninebark, red osier dogwood, daggerleaf rush, and slender rush. Zone 2, the side slopes of your rain garden, which may become flooded for short periods of time. Plants need to tolerate occasional standing water in the wet season. The images are low Oregon grape, snowberry. Plants that do well in the Zone 2 are low Oregon grape, snowberry, sword fern, and sea thrift. Zone 3 is the area around the perimeter of your rain garden, and or on the berm where plants will grow in drier soil. Plants that do well in the zone are red flowering currant, nuka rose, serviceberry, and kinnikinick. Rain garden maintenance. Keep inlet and overflow clear of debris. Do not fertilize, use pesticides or herbicides, as this will contribute to runoff. Provide water as needed, typically the first 2 to 3 summers, and provide additional mulch as needed. When planting native plants, consider using a variety of plants that will bloom in spring, summer, and fall, as this will best provide food for our native pollinators. Pull invasives and replace them with native plants such as tall Oregon grape, mock orange, red flowering currant, snowberry, and blackcap raspberry. This is an example of how to use native plants in a landscape. There are 90% native species and accents at PUD number 3 in Johns Prairie. We prefer native plants because generally you don't need to amend soils for native plants, that they will adapt to the location. Container stock. Easy to transplant, can be left in a pot for a long period of time, available all year. Best time to plant is fall. Bare root plants are inexpensive, easy to handle, lightweight, but only available in February. They need to be planted quickly. How to plant your bare root plant. When planning for mature plant size, we need to choose and locate plants based on their eventual mature size. Look for examples in the landscape around you. A good resource is linked below, Sound Native Plant Calculator. That concludes our presentation. Please remember that our native plant sale is ongoing. Our next presentation will be January 5th, 2023 in Belfair.